Welcome back to Inherited Dawn, a One Piece podcast.
We are covering chapter 175 today, titled Unleashed.
And what an absolutely perfect title, because just when you think the crew is done for, just when the water's rising and the key is a fake, a single kick changes everything. And a note. We have to talk about the note.
The sheer audacity of it.
It's one of the coldest moments in the series so far. If you think so too, and you want to follow our journey through Alabasta, maybe drop us a follow. That way you won't miss the moment we finally see Crocodile get what's coming to him.
I have a feeling that moment is getting very, very close.
Let's get into it. The chapter kicks off right in the middle of the action. We see Chopper, full heavy point, just rampaging through the casino.
And we get a quick flashback to understand why. Sanji has a plan. He always has a plan.
Seriously, this is peak Sanji. We've seen him be a great fighter, we've seen him be smooth, but this is the first time we're seeing him as a full-on master strategist, a spy. He lets himself get captured, plays beaten up and broken in front of Crocodile, and then sells this whole story about Mr. Prince being some other guy. He points Crocodile in the completely wrong direction.
It's a classic misdirection. Crocodile is looking for a mastermind, a schemer. He's projecting his own values onto his opponent. He's not looking for the cook.
Sanji uses that underestimation as his primary weapon. It's a brilliant exploitation of his enemy's psyche.
Crocodile is so far up his own ass that he can't imagine the guy who serves dinner is also the one playing him like a fiddle. He hears Mr. Prince and he's picturing some guy in a tuxedo with a monocle, not a lanky chef with a swirly eyebrow.
And this is where the plan becomes so elegant in its simplicity. Sanji knows Crocodile expects a complex, powerful opponent. So, what does he give him? A giant furry decoy. And he uses Chopper as the perfect distraction. He tells Chopper to go wild, shouting that he's Mr. Prince. Chopper, bless his pure, innocent heart, just does it. He's trusting his crewmate completely, even when the plan is just run and scream.
Think about the level of trust that requires. Chopper has no context for this. All he knows is his friend, Sanji, who was just captured, has told him to cause a massive scene and paint a huge target on his back. And he doesn't hesitate for a second.
Not for a single second. He puffs up into heavy point and just starts wrecking the place. It's loud, it's destructive, it's exactly the kind of unsubtle brute force approach that Crocodile would expect from a pirate.
Crocodile, being the arrogant man he is, immediately buys it. He sees this giant rampaging creature and thinks, the brute force, this must be him. He doesn't stop to think, why would the mastermind announce himself so foolishly? His ego fills in the blanks for him.
He goes right for the kill shot, tries to drain Chopper dry with one of his sand attacks. And this is the best part. Chopper just shrinks. Poof! Switches from heavy point to brain point, and tiptoes right past him while Crocodile's sand tornado is still going.
The visual of it is brilliant. It's comedic, but it's also deeply humiliating for Crocodile. This giant, furious warlord of the sea, a man who commands an entire nation from the shadows, swinging at nothing while this tiny little reindeer just quietly slips away.
It completely deflates Crocodile's rage into pure confusion. And all it took was one rumble ball and a ton of guts. That's our doctor right there. That moment is the first major crack in Crocodile's composure in this entire arc. He was just made to look like an absolute fool.
It also shows how versatile Chopper's fruit is. We've seen it used primarily for combat so far, switching between points for different kinds of offense and defense. But here, it's not for fighting. It's for espionage, for escape. It's a tool for any situation. It establishes the rumble ball as a piece of scientific ingenuity on par with devil fruits themselves.
Exactly. It's not just a power-up, it's a toolkit. But while Chopper is pulling off this great escape looking like a total legend, the rest of the crew is in the worst possible spot.
The cage. Underwater. And filling up fast.
The desperation is just pouring off the page. Luffy, Zoro, Nami, Usopp, and Smoker are all trapped in this Seastone cage as the water level rises. You can feel the panic. You can really feel the claustrophobia in these panels. The panels get tighter, the waterline keeps creeping up, and you can see the sweat and fear on everyone's faces.
Seastone itself is such a terrifying concept. It's the perfect countermeasure to the most powerful people in the world. And here, we see it used not just to negate their powers, but to hold them in place while they drown. It's a particularly cruel and effective prison.
It's the ultimate equalizer. Doesn't matter if you're made of rubber or can slice steel. If this stuff touches you, you're just a person in a cage. And that's when Nami has a moment of quick thinking, as she always does. She suggests they anger the banana wanis, make them so furious they bite the cage and break it open.
It's a solid plan. Use the jailer's own guard dogs to bust you out. It's clever, it's proactive, and it's perfectly in character for Nami to try and manipulate the environment to her advantage. She's not a powerhouse, so she has to be the smartest person in the room.
But it just doesn't work. The banana wani bites down and its teeth can't even make a scratch on the bars. These are monsters that can eat ships and they can't even dent the cage.
And that's the moment the hope dies. When a monster that can eat a ship can't even dent your prison, you know you're in trouble. The look on Nami's face when she realizes her last best idea was useless, it's heartbreaking. That's true despair.
That's when Usopp and Luffy just lose it. They start yelling at Smoker, asking him how he can be so calm when they're all about to drown. It's such a raw, human reaction. They're terrified, and his stoicism feels like an insult.
Which is a fair question. Smoker is just sitting there, completely stoic. He's accepted his fate in a way the Straw Hats never would. His is to fight against fate, to defy the impossible. His is to accept the outcome once all logical options are exhausted. It's a fundamental clash of philosophies.
But he doesn't answer their panic. Instead, he turns it right back on them. He asks how much they really know about Crocodile's plan. And then he drops the bomb. He's not thinking about survival anymore. He's trying to pass on vital intelligence before he dies.
He starts talking about Miss All Sunday.
My ears perked up so fast. We know she's Crocodile's number 2, but Smoker gives us the real story. He must have been investigating Baroque works for a while because he has information that no one else does.
He says she's been on the run from the world government for 20 years, since she was a child.
20 years? That's almost her entire life. What could a little kid do to get the entire world hunting her down? We've seen high bounties on pirates who've pillaged and murdered, but to be a fugitive from childhood, that's something else entirely. That's not a crime. That's an existential threat.
He also reveals her bounty was above 70 million berries, which he notes was nearly the same as Crocodile's before he became a warlord and had it frozen. Let's put that number in perspective. The bounties we've seen so far in the East Blue were a fraction of that. A bounty that high on a child is unheard of. It implies her potential for destruction or the importance of the knowledge she holds is on a global scale.
So she's not just her partner. In the eyes of the government, she was on her level. She's a world-class criminal in her own right. She's not some sidekick he picked up. She's a major player.
Okay, but think about what this means. We've seen Crocodile's personality. He's arrogant, paranoid, and trusts no one. Why would a man like that team up with someone who is his equal in notoriety, someone the world government fears that much? He wouldn't risk being overshadowed or betrayed by such a powerful piece on the board.
He wouldn't, unless he needed her for something only she could do, something so crucial to his plan that he was willing to take the massive risk of partnering with her and starting a civil war.
Precisely. Smoker says their partnership means there's something in Alabasta that Crocodile wants. So badly, he's willing to work with a monster like her and start a civil war. This isn't about the throne anymore. The throne is just a tool. It's bigger. This is where the scope of the arc just explodes. It's not just about saving a kingdom. It's about stopping something that could affect the entire world.
And Luffy's response to all this deep, world-shaking lore? Who cares? We don't need a reason to kick his ass.
It's perfect. It's so quintessentially Luffy. Smoker is trying to explain the global political implications, the ancient history, the sheer scale of the conspiracy. And Luffy just cuts right through it all with a single, simple truth. Crocodile hurt his friend. That's the only reason he needs.
That is the heart of our captain. It's not about politics or ancient history. It's about protecting his people. The world can have its reasons. Luffy has his. He doesn't need a grand justification to do what's right. If you mess with his friends, you're his enemy. End of story.
It's a beautiful moment of character contrast. Smoker represents the system, the law, the reasons. He needs evidence, a chain of command, a justification for his actions. Luffy represents pure personal justice. It's a force of nature that can't be bogged down by bureaucracy or lore.
But Smoker, ever the pragmatist, brings them crashing back to reality. He's probably a little stunned by Luffy's simple declaration, but he's still a Marine. He just asks, okay, so how are you going to escape? And just like that, the panic is right back on. The lore dump is over, drowning is back on the menu.
The water is touching Luffy now, and you can see him starting to weaken. The seawater and the Seastone cage are a double whammy for a devil fruit user. He's being drained from all sides.
This is it. This is the low point. They've tried everything. The cage is unbreakable. The water is rising. The hero is losing his strength. It's pure despair. The story really lets us sit in that hopelessness for a few panels. We're made to believe there's no way out.
And then we hear a sound, a thump.
And a banana wani just gets folded, one-shotted, sent flying through the water by a single, beautiful, black-legged kick. It's an underwater explosion of power.
Mr. Prince has arrived.
The timing, it's the absolute masterclass of a last-second rescue. Just when all hope is lost, just when you've accepted the bad end, Sanji comes through the wall like the Kool-Aid man of clutch saves. He doesn't just open a door, he kicks a hole through the foundation of the building.
The look on everyone's faces, the shock, the relief, it's all there. Usopp and Luffy are just in awe. Even Zoro has this look of, well, look at that. The cook actually did something useful. It's a fantastic character moment for the whole group.
And my favorite part of this whole sequence, my absolute favorite panel, Luffy, weak from the seawater, barely able to move, just looks up at Vivi through the water and gives her a thumbs up.
It's so powerful. He's not just relieved for himself, he's proud. He's communicating a dozen things in that one gesture. He's telling her, you did your part. You got us here. We'll take it from here. He's reassuring her that her faith in them wasn't misplaced.
It's that trust, bro, that absolute unshakable faith in his crew. He never doubted for a second that Sanji would come through. He just needed to hold on long enough. It recontextualizes his panic from earlier. He wasn't scared he would die, he was scared of failing Vivi, and now he knows they won't.
It's the core of their strength. They aren't strong individually. They're strong because they have each other to fall back on. Sanji's intelligence covers for Luffy's recklessness. Luffy's strength covers for Nami's physical vulnerability. It's a perfectly balanced system of trust.
So Sanji's in the water, looking cool as ever, but there are still more banana wanis closing in, and they have a key problem, literally.
The key to the cage is inside one of these giant angry crocodiles, and they have no idea which one. It's a classic needle in a haystack problem, only the haystack is alive and wants to eat you.
Except Smoker does. The dude is chained up, half drowned, and he's still the sharpest guy in the room. He points out the third one that came in.
Luffy asks how he could possibly know, and Smoker's answer is just so perfectly him. The growl is the same.
He recognized its voice from when Crocodile fed the key to it earlier. That's a level of observation that is just terrifying. He's not just a Logia powerhouse. His senses are honed to a razor's edge. He's been in 100 deadly situations, and his brain is just conditioned to notice every single detail.
It shows you why he's such a high-ranking Marine. It's not just about the devil fruit. It's about the experience. He's a veteran hunter. This single line of dialogue does more to establish his competence than any fight scene could. It also raises the question of why he helps them. He could have stayed silent and let them struggle, but his desire to stop Crocodile overrides his duty to capture the pirates, for now.
Meanwhile, back in the casino, Crocodile is finally realizing he's been had. He's walking back to the VIP room, fuming. The decoy worked perfectly. Sanji bought them precious minutes.
He knows he was tricked. He calls the decoy plan smart, but you can hear the anger behind the compliment. He hates being outthought. His entire identity is built on being the smartest, most manipulative person in any room.
Miss All Sunday is with him, and she asks the critical question. What if they've already found the key? She's planting that little seed of doubt, or perhaps she's just stating the logical next step, but it sounds like a subtle jab at his overconfidence.
And Crocodile just scoffs. He reveals his final trump card. The key he fed to the banana wani was a fake.
Of course it was. This is Crocodile we're talking about. The man has backup plans for his backup plans. He pulls out the real key from his pocket. He would never leave his victory in the hands of a dumb animal.
It's the ultimate expression of his paranoia and his need for control. He doesn't even trust his own elaborate death traps. He needs that final, personal guarantee of victory. He has to be the one to hold the real key, so he can be the one to watch the light go out in their eyes. It's sadistic.
So he walks into the room, smug, holding the real key, ready to gloat over their drowned corpses. He looks down into the water,
and the cage is empty.
Not just empty, it's swinging open. The banana wanis are all knocked out, floating belly up, and floating right there with them is Mr. 3.
Unconscious, with a piece of paper stuck to his chest.
And the note says, "See ya, shitty Croc," signed Mr. Prince.
The silence in that room must have been deafening. The only sound would have been Crocodile grinding his teeth to dust.
Super! That is one of the most disrespectful, most legendary, most perfectly executed clapbacks in this entire story. Sanji didn't just win, he left a receipt. He left proof of his victory, addressed personally to his enemy. It's magnificent.
Let's break this down. Sanji didn't have the key. The key they were chasing was a fake. Crocodile had the real one. So how did they get out of a Seastone cage?
Mr. 3. His devil fruit lets him create wax. He can make a key. Sanji must have figured out where Crocodile was keeping his other captured agents, found him, beat him up, and realized he was literally the solution to their problem.
Crocodile's own agent, the one who tried to kill them before, becomes the tool of their salvation. The irony is staggering. Crocodile was defeated by his own elaborate scheme. His penchant for using and discarding agents came back to bite him in the most direct way possible. He created the very tool that would foil his perfect trap.
And the name on the note, Mr. Prince. He takes the persona Crocodile was hunting and throws it right back in his face. It's not just an escape, it's a statement. It's Sanji saying, "You were looking for Mr. Prince? Here I am. And I just outplayed you at every turn in your own house. You don't get to control the narrative. I do."
It's psychological warfare. Sanji proved he could get to Crocodile's prisoners right under his nose in his own headquarters, free them, and walk away clean. He completely dismantled Crocodile's sense of security and control. That note isn't just an insult. It's a declaration that Crocodile is not safe, not even in his own fortress.
Crocodile's face at the end? That is not just anger. That is pure, undiluted rage. We've seen him annoyed, we've seen him confident, we've seen him cruel. This is the first time we've seen him truly lose his composure. He's not a calm, collected schemer anymore. He's been personally insulted, and he is going to explode.
Oda's author comment this week was about one of his assistants leaving, and he jokes about who he's supposed to push around for kicks now. It's a nice little glimpse behind the curtain.
You can feel the camaraderie in his studio, even in a little joke like that. It's the same energy he puts into the Straw Hat crew. You can tell he loves the people he works with, and that love translates onto the page.
And there's the question of how Mr. 3 was even floating. I remember reading somewhere that the explanation was that he was on a piece of super floaty wood from a special tree.
I love that. The world just feels so thought out. It's great when there's an answer for little things like that. It builds a level of trust, like the world has its own rules and they're being followed, even when we don't see it.
This chapter was a masterclass in tension and release. From the absolute depths of despair in that cage to one of the most triumphant gotcha moments we've seen. It's a perfect encapsulation of the One Piece formula.
Sanji's stock just went through the roof. We knew he was a top-tier fighter, but this arc is cementing him as the crew's master strategist. He's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. He's the James Bond of the crew.
He uses his head first. The fighting is just what he does when the plan requires it. This entire operation was won with almost no combat on his part. It was pure infiltration, misdirection, and improvisation.
This whole escape is a perfect microcosm of the crew. Nami's quick but flawed idea, Luffy's unwavering heart and trust, Smoker's sharp intellect providing a crucial clue, Chopper's bravery in being the decoy, and Sanji's brilliant strategy all coming together. And Zoro was also there.
He was preparing to cut his way out, I'm sure. Probably trying to figure out if he could cut Seastone if he got angry enough.
He was probably just waiting for the water to get high enough to be a challenge. The man lives for this stuff. He was probably disappointed Sanji showed up.
Okay, before we get into predictions, if you have a theory on how they got Mr. 3 to cooperate, drop it in the comments. I'd love to see what everyone thinks. Was it a threat? A bribe? Just a really, really convincing kick?
My money's on the kick. A swift kick to the face can be very persuasive. Alright, predictions for chapter 176. What do you have for me, Robin?
My first prediction is that we'll get a scene of Smoker processing this. He won't just run off. He's going to have a moment where he has to reconcile the fact that he was saved by pirates. This will be the beginning of his moral conflict in Alabasta. He can't just blindly follow marine justice anymore. The world is not as black and white as he thought.
Ooh, I like that. The system he believes in, the world government, left him to die, and the criminals he hunts set him free. That's a great internal conflict. He owes his life to Monkey D. Luffy now. That's gotta mess with his head.
Second, I think we'll see Miss All Sunday and Crocodile have a very tense conversation. She will point out his failure, subtly, perhaps with a pointed question or a calm observation, and he will lash out. Their partnership is built on mutual benefit, not trust, and that foundation is about to crack under the pressure of this humiliation.
He's going to blame her somehow, for sure. This is your fault for not anticipating it, or something. A guy with an ego that big can't accept that he was outplayed. He has to find a scapegoat.
My final prediction, the next chapter will end with the Straw Hats and Vivi finally making it out of Rain Base, looking at the capital city of Alubarna in the distance and seeing the smoke of the battlefield. The race against time is officially on. The personal stakes of the casino are over, and now it's back to the national crisis.
Good ones. Solid predictions. Okay, my turn. First up, the very next scene is going to be the crew reunited, and Sanji is going to get his moment of praise from Nami. It's all he ever wants, and after a stunt like this, he's earned it. We need that great, light-hearted moment before the darkness sets back in.
A moment of levity is definitely needed, and it would be a well-deserved reward for Sanji's brilliance.
Second, I predict we're going to check in with the rebel army. We haven't seen them in a while. Koza is going to make a major move, maybe starting the final charge on the palace based on misinformation that was fed to him by Baroque works. We'll see the tragedy of the war in full swing with good people about to kill other good people.
And Vivi will be racing to stop him. That adds to the stakes he mentioned. They're not just running to a location, they're running to stop a specific tragic event.
Exactly. And for my last one, Crocodile is done playing games. My prediction is that he's going to unleash his master plan now, whatever Operation Utopia is. He's been provoked. He's been embarrassed. The subtle manipulations are over. From here on out, it's scorched earth. Literally. I think we're going to see his devil fruit used on a massive, city-wide scale.
He's gonna make the entire country pay for Sanji's note.
You know it. That note might have just saved the Straw Hats, but it also might have just doomed Alabasta. And that's where we'll leave it for this week. This was an incredible chapter. Join us next time as we see the fallout from the greatest escape act in the Grand Line. Until then, keep sailing.